So there are rumors of a Nintendo Switch Pro going around, and here's my thing on that. It's probably not a Pro. It's probably not a Nintendo Switch Pro. I don't know, man. Similar to how PlayStation chose to actually have their PlayStation Pro be totally different in terms of specification for what the actual Pro version of the console would be. That is what I say a Switch Pro should actually be. Now, first things first, I'm not gonna lie to you. Nintendo desperately, in my opinion, Nintendo desperately needs to have a Switch Pro because, dude, it's been, how long did the Switch come out? The Nintendo Switch came out 2017. Okay, with respect, that's like a 5 year, 4 to 5 year span almost in a way. Regardless though, it's not because of the fact that the Nintendo Switch is actually a little bit old. This needed to happen because the Nintendo Switch is just not the best constructed console on the planet. In my opinion, there are so many other cheaply made products out there that can probably outlast the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo Switch, other than the fact that they tend to slightly overheat, they have a slightly short battery time, other than the fact that the Joy-Con drift is just so infamously bad. Dude, to have an actual Nintendo Switch would be amazing. But here's the reason why I actually don't think I would actually be interested in one. Because of something like this. This motherfucker is called a, what is this? The IO Neo, and it's basically like a handheld gaming PC. Ignore the price tag. Don't just ignore that for a second. It's basically like a gaming PC damn near in your pocket. Now, don't get me wrong. When it comes to something like that, obviously, a lot of people have always tried to model that they can put like a very high-tech advanced gaming PC inside of a laptop or inside of a cell phone or something like that. When it comes to things like this, you have to actually think, can mobile gaming actually be as good as it was back then? As good as a Nintendo Game Boy and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, when it comes to having mobile gaming, the market for mobile gaming is there. But overall, dude, when it comes to someone like me, I don't want to play a mobile game literally on my cell phone if it doesn't have any buttons at all. And I'm not saying that that's why the Nintendo Switch is going to fail. The reason why I feel like mobile gaming just isn't it is because, one, the interface of touching a screen itself isn't engaging. And two, my cell phone just does not have a decent high specification to run, like, you know, certain things at a certain level the way that I would actually run it via a console. Don't get me wrong, there are certain things you can play on the phone, but there are certain things that you just have to have the actual input between you versus the device of actually physically pushing in buttons to actually play the game that you like. So, in terms of this thing, I don't even know what the hell to call this. First things first, this thing is not even out yet. It's just basically crowdfunded, and it's not even like a real, it's a real concept. This is a real gaming device. This is a real thing that people are doing to put in real life in real hands. And I am absolutely 100% down for this. Depending on what the cost of it will be, obviously. Now, don't get me wrong. I feel like these guys are definitely trying to nail what's been going on in like the mobile gaming space. Don't get me wrong. I still think that mobile gaming has a very long way to go, especially if we're talking like the online infrastructure of mobile gaming. But for the most part, dude, this is beastly. Like, if I can even show you what are we even talking about spec wise? Dude, we're talking AMD Ryzen 5 Joy-Cons, obviously low latency Wi-Fi level 6, high speed RAM at SSD. No, there's a different way for me to exactly specify what. Okay, yeah, stuff like this, literally stuff like this. You know, you got equipped with 16 gigs of LPDDR4 RAM, a terabyte SSD, And when we're talking graphics, we're talking, okay, don't get me wrong, AMD Radeon graphics are pretty fucking good, so I don't even think I have to get into like strong detail for AMD is. But if you honestly had to choose, if you honestly had to think of what would you rather wait for in terms of, and here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. If this thing can play, sorry, if this thing can play literal games like this, not Cyberpunk or Red Dead Redemption or something like that. Hey, for all you know, this thing can play Cyberpunk better than a regular Xbox or a regular PS4 with very good quality. You would never possibly know. The future for stuff like this is very high. It's just you gotta execute it. You just have to execute it properly. And don't get me wrong, I would love to be able to play games like this at a very high level. Something like Google Stadia can pass by, but unless you're someone who actually understands the detailed specifications like we have right here, AMD Ryzen 5 and, you know, what's the screen? The screen is a 7-inch 800 pixel capacity touch native landscape. 215 ppi, 76% NTC with 500 nit peak brightness. So the controller itself is going to be similar to like a regular Nintendo Switch. Based off of everything that I've just practically shown you, this guy has it right. Like, if you want to make a Switch that can run some AAA fucking games, that's what you really want, dude. Like, no offense to the people who make, oh my god, dude, this would be so fucking ill. I'm not gonna lie, I would probably spend money to buy this, but like, don't get me wrong, like, for Nintendo in general, what people want from Nintendo is just a banger of a console that is actually capable of outputting AAA games. Because so far, the reason why I personally as a gamer haven't gotten a Nintendo Switch is just simply because I don't feel like I would get a very good bang for my buck as far as the investment that happens. When Nintendo games come to Switch, a lot of games that come to Nintendo games aren't really like up my alley. Don't get me wrong, you have your I know Hades is on Switch, you have your Animal Crossing, you have like, you know, a bunch of games that start off not ported to Switch and they eventually get ported to Switch. Nah, man, that doesn't mean anything. Nintendo Switch needs, similar to what Sony has, Nintendo needs, don't get me wrong, Nintendo has like Monster Hunter. Nintendo needs a God of War. Nintendo needs like a Demon Souls or a Dark Souls remake or something like that. Or Sekiro or something seriously crazy like that. Nintendo needs a banger AAA game, even if it was from a hated company like Ubisoft or Bethesda or something like that. That's what I feel like Nintendo desperately needs, because this console, don't get me wrong, is good for what it is. I think the Nintendo Switch is honestly better than the Xbox and the PS4 simply because, hey, it's portable. And the potential for what a Nintendo Switch can do compared to Xbox and Sony are very, don't get me wrong, a lot of companies are strict with their licensing, but I feel like Nintendo is a bit more loose in terms of who it's going to hire in terms of its devs and what they're going to be willing to put onto this console. The Nintendo Switch, in my opinion, is a far better console than the Xbox and the PS5, even better than the PS5. The PS5 is good, but with all the new things going on, you got to think next gen is going to be, people are going to want to do things that have, without the need of constantly being connected to the internet and without the need of constantly having to be carrying around a flat screen TV, people are going to want to have to adapt to that quickness right there on the fly, and to be able to pull out a device and play your favorite game, AAA game, on your handheld device. That was literally the reason why Nintendo was winning back then, because the Nintendo Game Boy and Game Boy Color and Game Boy SD, hell, even the Nintendo DS were amazing products. They didn't necessarily have the right games to be on there, but for the generation that it was there, it was amazing. So that is with my concern about having a Nintendo Switch Pro. If a Nintendo Switch Pro is just gonna have an OLED screen with some slightly updated fixtures and materials to their Joy-Cons and etc. If you can output to a 4K display, that's awesome. What if your TV doesn't have 4K? What if your TV doesn't even go that high? That would be not necessarily useless, but for what I understand, a lot of people just want their Nintendo Switch games to run high level fidelity games at the level of 4K. The Nintendo, what is it? I think Nintendo runs like, what is it, 420 or 780? It's either 480 or 720p. Yeah, 480 or 720p, and the graphics are very, very low res, like very low res. And you know, it's okay because it's a small handheld console, but again, if you're gonna take that a step higher, even regardless of the constraints that Corona and COVID might possess for them, you gotta take it a step higher for this to be. If you want this console to last the testament of, I don't know, next gen, you gotta take it a step higher. This thing needs to have like a possible way to fit 500 terabytes with a long battery life and the potential to, yes, give 1080 displays. Even if it's on an OLED, gamers really want to just have the basic level of 1080p, because come on, like, there's so many other things that you can use to watch something 1080p wise. Anyway, regardless of which, in my opinion, still, this thing here, holy Jesus, this thing here, as I went past that graphic, this shit here, oh my god, I don't even think it's a competition for what Nintendo is actually trying to do versus this strong beast of a handheld console that you can probably possess. Anyway, as always, my name is Chaos the Gamer, and yeah, GG's. I'll see you around.